morning, dear students. Hope you all are staying home and staying safe. In today's episode of video learning session, I'll be narrating and discussing with you on the rise of fascism in Italy. This interesting content is an extract from your relevant Chapter 3 of Class 10 History syllabus. I'll try to narrate on this content in an elaborate, precise summary. So let's start with our narration. Historians opined that the rise of fascism in Italy and Nazism in Germany has been the most important political development in the post-war period in Europe. Italy had been long suffering from political disunity and disintegration, for long under autocratic rule and foreign domination. When capitalism was rising, the Italian people also felt an indomitable urge to get united as a nation-state. Though Italy was a member of the Triple Alliance, she remained neutral at the initial stage of the war. Italy was for some time past under the monarchical form of government, while the cabinet being responsible to the parliament. The failure of the government on the one hand and the deteriorating economic condition on the other led to an ever-increasing political crisis in Italy. The impacts of the First World War rendered an overall economic condition of Italy very precarious. The government, being hemmed in by all these problems, became inactive, suffered from taking political decisions, and lacked initiative in all directions. When Italian Prime Minister Orlando resigned, 6 ministries, one after another, came to power from 23 June 1919 to 31st October 1922. This sort of political instability proved to be a fertile ground for the rise and growth of fascism under Benito Mussolini in Italy. The rise of fascism in Italy began during the First World War, when Benito Mussolini and other radicals formed a political group called Fasci by supporting a revolution against Germany, Austria-Hungary. The first meeting of Mussolini's Fasci of Revolutionary Action was held on 24 January 1915. After aligning itself with the Italian conservatives, the Fascist Party rose into prominence by using violence and intimidation, and eventually seizing and capturing Rome in 1922 under the leadership of Benito Mussolini. Italian fascism, also simply known as fascism, is the original ideology as developed in Italy. This ideology is associated with the Fascist Revolutionary Action founded in 1915 in Italy and the succeeding Nationalist Fascist Party founded in 1921, under which Benito Mussolini ruled the Kingdom of Italy from 1922 to 1943. The Republican Fascist Party that ruled the Italian Social Republic from 1943 to 1945, and the subsequent Italian neo-fascist movements. Italian fascism is deeply rooted in Italian nationalism and a strong desire to restore and expand the Italian territories as deemed necessary for a state to assert its superiority and strength and avoid succumbing to decay. In fact, the Italian fascists claimed that modern Italy was the heir or successor to ancient Rome and its legacy. And it also historically supported the creation of an Italian empire to provide spazio vitale or living space for colonization by Italian settlers and to establish control over the Mediterranean Sea. Italian fascism promoted corporatist economic system whereby the employer and employee syndicates were linked together. National economic producers such as the industrialists, big businessmen, and rich landowners work alongside the state to set the national economic policy. This economic system was intended to resolve the class conflict through collaboration between the two classes. As mentioned earlier, the first meeting of the Fasci of Revolutionary Action was held on 24 January 1915 under the leadership of Benito Mussolini. In the next few years, the relatively small group of Fasci resorted to violence and political actions. In the 1920s, the militant strike activity of the industrial workers reached its peak in Italy. Mussolini and the Fascist Party took advantage of the situation by allying itself with the industrial owners and attacking the workers and the peasants in the name of preserving the order and eternal peace in Italy. The Italian fascism and Italian political right held common ground or common beliefs. Both held Marxism in contempt, that is, they are opposed to Marxist socialist ideologies and do not believe in class consciousness, but they believe in the rule of the elites. The Italian fascists began to accommodate or include the Italian conservatives by making major alterations in their political agenda, like abandoning the previous beliefs in populism, republicanism, and anti-clericalism, that is, to oppose any clergy teachings and influence. And instead, it adopted policies in support of free enterprise and accepted the Roman Catholic Church and the monarchy as an institution in Italy. In order to appeal to the Italian conservatives, it adopted various policies such as promoting family values, including the policies designed to reduce the number of women in the workforce by limiting the role of women to that of a mother. Though fascism adopted a number of policies designed to appeal to the reactionaries, the fascists sought to maintain fascism's revolutionary character, with Angelo Oliverio Olivetti saying, "Fascism would like to be conservative, but it will by being reactionary." Fascism supported revolutionary action and committed to secure law and order to appeal to both conservatives and syndicalists. Prior to fascism's accommodation of the political right, fascism was a small, urban, northern Italian movement that had about 1,000 members. But after the accommodation or inclusion of the members of the political right, the fascist movement membership soared to approximately 250,000 by 1921. Fascist seizure of power under Benito Mussolini. Beginning in 1922, the fascists escalated or developed their strategy from attacking socialist offices and homes of socialist leadership figures to violent occupation of cities. The fascists attacked the headquarters of the Socialist and the Catholic labor unions in Cremona and imposed forced Italianization of the German-speaking population in Trent and Bolzano. After seizing these cities, the fascists made plans to seize power in Rome. In October 24, 1922, the Fascist Party held its annual congress in Naples when Mussolini ordered the black shirts to take control over the public buildings and trains and converge on 3 points around Rome. However, the fascists managed to seize control over several post offices and trains in northern Italy, while the government in Italy, led by the left-wing coalition, was internally divided and was unable to respond to fascist advance. The Italian king, Victor Emmanuel III, thought the risk of bloodshed in Rome to disperse the fascists was too high. So then, the Italian king decided to appoint Mussolini as the Prime Minister of Italy when Mussolini arrived in Rome on 30th October 1922 to accept the appointment. The fascist propaganda aggrandized this event, which came to be known as the March on Rome, as a seizure of power because of fascist heroic exploits. Upon becoming the Prime Minister of Italy, Mussolini had to form a coalition government because the fascist party had no control over the Italian parliament. Mussolini and his coalition government initially pursued economically liberal policies under the direction of a liberal finance minister, Alberto De Stefani, a member of the Centre Party, including balancing the budget through deep cuts to the civil service. Initially, some drastic changes were introduced in the government policies, and repressive police actions were also limited. The fascist Italy began their attempts to entrench the fascists in Italy through the SEBA law, which granted the plurality of the seats in the parliament to any party or coalition listed in an election that secured 25% or more of the votes. Through considerable fascist violence and suppression, the list won a majority of the vote, allowing the fascists to win a majority of the seats. In the aftermath of the election, a crisis and a political scandal erupted after the Socialist Party deputy Giacomo Matteotti was kidnapped and murdered by the fascists. Liberal and the left-wing minority left the parliament and walked out in protest, which came to be known as the Aventine Secession. On 3rd January 1925, Mussolini addressed the fascist-dominated Italian parliament and declared that he was personally responsible for what happened, but insisted that he had done nothing wrong. He proclaimed himself to be the dictator of Italy and assuming full responsibility over the government and announcing the dismissal of the parliament. From 1925 to 1929, Fascism steadily became entrenched in power. Opposition deputies were denied access to the parliament and censorship was introduced. Also, a decree passed in December 1925 made Mussolini solely responsible to the king. Aggressive policy pursued by the fascists under Benito Mussolini. In the 1920s, the fascist Italy pursued an aggressive foreign policy that included an attack on the Greek island of Corfu with the aim to expand Italian territory in the Balkans, and a plan to wage war against Turkey and Yugoslavia into a civil war by supporting the Croats and Macedonians separatists to legitimize Italian intervention, also making Albania a de facto protectorate of Italy, achieved through diplomatic means by 1927. In response to a revolt in the Italian colony in Libya, the fascists chose to abandon the liberal-era colonial policy of cooperation with the local leaders. Instead, it claimed that the Italian settlers had the right to colonize the inferior Africans, where it sought to settle around 10 to 15 million Italians in Libya. This resulted in an aggressive military campaign known as the pacification of Libya against the natives in Libya, which included mass killings, the use of concentration camps, and forced starvation of thousands of people. Italian authorities also committed ethnic cleansing or mass massacre of a particular ethnic group by forcibly expelling 100,000 Bodua Cyrenaicans. Half the population of Cyrenaica in Libya were removed from their settlement, which was stated to be given to the Italian settlers. Thus, in order to sum up, we may assume that fascism is a form of radical authoritarian and nationalism that emerged in Italy and Europe during the First World War in the early 20th century. It is characterized by one-party totalitarian regime that rose into prominence through violence, intimidation, and racism. Well, that's the end of our interesting brief narration on the rise of fascism in Italy. I certainly hope that you would be surely enlightened with the historical background regarding the circumstances and events that led to the emergence of fascism as a political and military power, also laid scope for the rise of Mussolini as a dictatorial power in Italy. So I will continue with more interesting content and narration in my next video learning session. Until then, keep learning and stay safe. Bye.